Morning you. I just want to talk a little bit about rating systems, liking, disliking, thumbs, stars and other icons of approval or disapproval. And this really comes out of a series of thoughts I've been having over a few months now, and conversations with various people about rating systems and about gauging systems on YouTube, on Vimeo, on Facebook, on U Doubled now, which is this other site, and systems like that really, and why they sometimes work and why they sometimes don't, and what kinds of different ways of working they have, and what kind of system I'd like to move towards, because they're really quite different. And the YouTube one at the moment, which is the thumbs up, thumbs down, like thing, and I think it's quite significant actually, it says thumbs up, like, and then there's a thumbs down with no text next to it. That one I think is probably the least effective of all the ones around at the moment. Let me just explain what I mean by that. The first thing to recognise, I think, about the way that the YouTube like-dislike system works is that these are not opposites on YouTube, I don't think. They fulfil completely different functions. Like does something different to dislike. The thumbs up, as you know, not only gives a little coloured line at the bottom of your video and add to your number of credit points, if you like. It also sends information onto your activity stream. It's a way of passing on the good stuff, isn't it? I mean, that's how you do it, and that's the only time I use it is for that reason. It's to send a message back to the community that here is something to like, and that community usually involves the maker of the video. So I'm sending a signal. It is all about sending signals of a kind of approval or support or recognition. It's that kind of a thing. Sometimes I will deliberately like a video which is not necessarily something I would agree with, but I like its presence. I value its presence in some way enough to recommend it to the people whom I'm in touch with. So it has that function really. And in that regard it's the same as the Facebook like, and it's the same as the Vimeo like. It sends the signal out. And not only sends it out, but sends it out with your name attached to it. So it's not an anonymous liking, it's absolutely a recommendation from yourself, with all that implies. People who know you, who have some of the same shared values as yourself, whatever those values may be, are looking at that liking in the context of who is doing the liking. So that's really important as well. So for example, if I see likes and I recognise the person who's doing the liking, I think, oh yeah, that's such and such a person. They tend to like things in that particular area that I have an affinity to myself, or that I would find interesting or stimulating in some way. So it gives me the tip off. That's a really significant function, as well, as I say, of giving a bit of moral support to the person who made the video. Now the dislike on YouTube is completely different. Firstly it's anonymous. There's no way of knowing who likes and who's done the disliking. It doesn't send a signal to the community, obviously. You're not passing something on, because who would want to pass on information about a video that you don't think is valuable in any way? So it doesn't pass a signal on to the community. So the only recipient of a dislike, the only person who knows that something's happened, is the person who made the video themselves, and it just shows up as a dislike. But because it's anonymous, there's no context to that dislike. You can't look to the person. You can't look to the source of that dislike and think, all right, so that person dislikes it. Yeah, I can kind of see where they're coming from. They have a very different set of opinions to me, or they have a different aesthetic to me, or something like that. So it doesn't really serve that kind of function. So they are actually very different things, I think. One is a communication tool, or a feedback tool, and one's I really don't know what the dislike function is. Really, I can't imagine what that is, because without the context, you don't know what the criticism is. Yeah, so as I said, Facebook and Vimeo don't do that for that reason, I suspect. They are purely either pass it on kind of tools or just signs of support, but not anonymous signs of support. The star system used to be on YouTube, and there are systems around which still use something like star systems. The difficulty with the star, I don't know, some people say it was a better system. I'm not sure about that really. One of the advantages of the star system is that it's graded, of course. But unless you know what the criteria are for that grading, again, it's fairly meaningless. Whether you would have to know who's doing the starring and why they're particularly giving that number of stars in order to get a sense of what's being valued or what's being criticised. And again, without that context, you don't really know what you're being marked on. And of course, starring systems absolutely are an evaluative mark. They're not just a passing it on sense. They're not a positioning. They are absolutely, you're marketing. You're marking the quality of a product, just like on a shopping site. You know, you give it number of stars. That's it. And that seems a little bit one-dimensional to me. Okay, the system I've got on UDoubled right now, which is it's a long way short of perfect, because it does just look like a rating system, far and I beg your pardon, close and distant. You can mark a video as being close to yourself or distant from yourself, which seems a little bit weird, and it isn't particularly intuitive right now. And I think people are looking at it and just translating it for themselves into the language of like and dislike. But the idea of that, and I'm not saying it's been realised, but the idea is that it becomes a more horizontal kind of system of gauging. So it's not about evaluating, this is good, this is not good. It's more about I'm distant from this, I am close to this. That kind of idea, which is much less judgmental, I think. Which I feel it's judgmental. You know, yeah, I won't go into that. It just feels less judgmental to me, but you may disagree. Although I would acknowledge, as I say, that people are using it for judgmental purposes, or could use it for judgmental purposes, and maybe it should be taken off. And if you are involved in the UDoubled project at all, let me know what you think. Yeah, I mean, tell you what I thought, what I would like. I mean, I did think when I was building the UD site, yeah, why not, UDoubled site. I did think about taking the ratings off. You know, in an early version of the template I made, I just removed that section completely. But then it just seemed like this is an opportunity for kind of data capture, or for information about people's relationship to content, which is being lost here. And it seemed like such an opportunity. Because it seems to me that someone out there who knows more about these things than I do, there's such an opportunity out there for a kind of data visualization project. Not with UDoubled right now, because there's not enough data on there, although hopefully there will be soon. But certainly something like YouTube. You know, a data visualization about how people connect. And these have been done with Facebook groups, that kind of thing, where you can dive into the. I'm not quite sure how you access the data, but how you access the data, some of the data at least. Obviously, not the confidential stuff. But you can access the publicly available data, and kind of draw three-dimensional graphs, maybe even animated graphs, of how relationships form, of how people are connected to one another, and specifically in this case, how people are connected to content. How close they feel to content and how distant they feel to content. And that seems to me that would be a really interesting piece of information that I would like, and I'd willing to give well, yeah, I'd love to be involved in that in some way. Do you know what I mean? So if you click on it, if you look into the video and you want to distance yourself, so you signal, I feel distanced from this content, that information that you're giving would be could be mapped. You know, you could get a data visualization engineer on there and kind of map that. So it would produce this map of, you know, who is close to who in terms of their likes and dislikes, or their affinities and discontinuities. Who feels themselves a little bit out on a limb in relationship to a lot of the content, or who feels right at the centre of things in relation to the content. I think that kind of information would be really interesting. So it would be a shame, because, you know, just in terms of the future, if anybody ever did manage to launch a data visualization project, it would be a shame if that data wasn't available for somebody to map. Just like people can map, you know, the relationships across friend networks or subscriber networks. Yeah, that's that really, I think. Yeah, but just in relation to UDoubled, if anybody has got any advice or thoughts or recommendations for something like this system, I'll call it a rating system, although I'm really uncomfortable with that term. If anybody has got any advice about that, and particularly, I have to say, the kind of psychology of this. I mean, speaking purely personally, I find it because some of my videos have been rated on I can't get away from the language myself. Have been rated on UDoubled as distant. So someone is looking at my videos there, and distancing themselves from that. But I actually find that fine, you know, I'm kind of unproblematic, I guess because I'm really used to it, being involved in it. Whereas on YouTube, if I see the little red bar, you know, but that has a different kind of psychological effect, you know what I mean? It just feels different, and I'm quite interested in how that works. Anyway, that'll do it for now. Thank you.